role for philanthropy, at least in my mind, is to be the risk capital for the social sector, the R&D for the country, and like pushing the edge of whatever this emerging thing is. And right now, when we're at a point of really contending with threats to the social fabric, I would expect philanthropy to be the gap filler. I think philanthropy now comes in a few flavors. One is that what I call traditional philanthropy, think of like Ford and folks that have been at this for a century. They deserve all the trust that they get because they've been at it for a long time. They've been part of the swirls and the resets of strategy. They have 30-year projects. This new wave that's more founder-driven, meaning the founders are alive and actively engaged, is spastic, to be frank. Every 18 months, a complete reset of their investment strategies. They spend so much time internally just trying to get money out that I think they are actually running counter to their missions in many respects. And think about what a funder communicates to a grantee by saying, okay, here's a 3-year grant, and halfway in the middle of that grant, you're saying, well, the rest of the 18 months is gonna be a tie-off because we're switching strategies. Like, you can't run philanthropy the same way you run private sector. It's just not intended to be that responsive. I say that, but there's some issues that I'm seeing across philanthropy that are problematic. One is who they're hiring to help. And if you're going to strategy firms whose most of their employees and staff are not associated with the communities you're seeking to serve, if most of your staff doesn't look like your intended audience, like viscerally, you have a problem. Are you surprised that they're swirling so much and there's so much confusion? And frankly, you get this behavior inside an organization, inside of a philanthropy, where people become risk adverse because they don't want to be embarrassed in front of their peers. And so when I was at a large philanthropy, if you hit above 5 million for your grant request, it had to go to an investment committee. And that is representatives from all the other strategies, plus finance, legal, all that. So you have to sit through and defend that investment against 20 people whose respect you want. So you can imagine what happened. What do humans do? They adjust. So everything is 4.5. Okay, we change the threshold to 4. Okay, now everything is 2.9, 3.2. Trying to avoid the conversation. And so what the end result is that you have people who are investing in what I call safe bets, meaning people have already been invested in before. But you're losing innovation, you're losing diversity. All the things you say you're about, you won't get because of the behavior of your employees trying to keep their jobs. Like, I don't believe you set up a philanthropy for that purpose. So I think there has to be a third party that's rating philanthropy and giving them grades. Like, yeah, this may be self-destructive for me personally as a person that seeks grants, but it's good for the country. And it's good for the industry, the philanthropic sector, to tell them the truth about themselves. Like, your folks are too focused on keeping their cushy jobs. You will never have the impact that you should be having. So what I would love to see from large philanthropies that most of us are applying to is to take more of these new models and maybe take a portion of the corpus and say, okay, this is for higher risk, and this is for moderate risk, this is for low risk, right? And so you can then maybe even re-grant the money to a venture capital partners or impact fund that will do what we just stated earlier, this notion of give them the human capacity they need plus a much longer commitment up front. This way you'll have far more diversity among your grantees. And that's important because you got to build your pipeline. One of the more controversial things that I say, and I say a lot of controversial things, is the fact that 73% of all our executives, regardless of sector in this country, are white men. That's a reflection of the talent pool and the pipeline, not of racism. Okay, now it may be somewhere in there, like some people didn't get access to talent pool 25 years ago because of racism, but the fact that the talent pool is the talent pool. Now, because of massive demographic shift, the talent pool is dramatically different than it was 25 years ago. And so the D will become self-evident. You won't have to talk about diversity because the talent pool is diverse. We need the same thing in the philanthropic sector. Because the philanthropic sector is way behind the rest of the country. Like these organizations are looking and replicating themselves over and over again. And that replication is not good. It's not innovative. It's the opposite of that. I launched this self-exploration exercise where I'm like, okay, what is my calling? I love people. I love convening people. I love helping them learn different things. I love my country. And I said, how can I combine all those things to one? And what would I call it? And that's when a civic ministry came to mind. And literally, I remember writing on my whiteboard in my office, civic ministry. And I'm mapping out all the places I wanted to be and do around the country and abroad. And the Festival Diaspora came out of this, the Secular Tent Revival. Expectant Advisory came out of this, which began like a producer of belonging content. We did a documentary with Sherm in 2021 called The Road Trip to Belonging, and many other engagements and pieces of work with folks around the country that I would have never engaged normally. And then literally 6 months later, Aspen asked me to build an external D&I program. I said, okay, well, let me help you find a D&I specialist, because that's not me. And he says, I know that, but you are an Aspen specialist. You need to build something for us that works at Aspen. And so I'm like, okay, I'm doing the landscape analysis in D&I. It's super convoluted to me, and I couldn't figure out what is it tethered to. And now all the other work on civic ministry made more sense to me. I'm like, wait a minute, this is notion of belonging. People want to belong. We have an innate human need to belong. And over the last 4 years, I have seen a lot of movement towards belonging away from D&I for a variety of reasons. People are looking for something different. And for me, belonging has a variety of vectors. Number one is it's a theme for the new national narrative. This idea that we are, the national project is to build a society where everyone belongs and enjoys equitable opportunities to thrive. And so let's take the private sector lens of that. What does that mean? How does belonging fit in? Where does D&I sit? Am I eradicating it? No, I'm not. I'm sequencing it. Belonging is what your executive says to everybody at all staff meeting. This will be an organization where everyone belongs and has opportunities to thrive. Then you get down to the next level. And those C-suites, a part of their performance evaluation, are indicators of belonging. Retention. You can calculate these things. Retention. It costs $66,000 to replace a mid-level person. Imagine if that person is driving serious revenue, running a division. People stay where they feel like they belong. Okay, so it's a business imperative. In fact, it's a fiduciary duty. What does that mean for society? Right? What that means is we have to explore other strategies. D&I is a strategy. And if it's offensive to my brother, it's offensive to me. So let's rename it. Let's figure something else out. But belonging is a big idea. It's what everything is tethered to. And if that is the national goal, I find it hard to see how you make more division out of that. Who doesn't want to belong? And who would say, I want to belong, but I want others to belong on the mic? At a community perspective, what you're finding, especially with low socioeconomic communities, is the real issue is trust, right? They don't trust institutions and they don't trust strangers, because strangers and institutions in their life have generally resulted in a very negative thing. If you look at grass tops, grassroots, so low socioeconomic is grassroots. Grass tops is like your Aspen types, right? We can have an intellectual conversation about belonging, but we're already winning, so that's an easy thing. It's harder down here. They need to be able to thrive much faster. So I'm saying 3 months to some rewards. You take a risk, reward. Longer time, now it's 6 months. Then you get us to the point where like, okay, I will do this for 2 years because you've delivered these other instances. I'll extend my trust gap to 2 years with you now. That is slow, patient capital. So back to the conversation about philanthropy. If you really want to change a community, start funding these quick wins for low socioeconomic communities, and so that you can build the trust with them over time. So then you can go after your evidence-based solution.